It took longer to get to this episode than I think we all expected, but thankfully it took this long. We delayed this episode for as long as we possibly could, thanks to our, I don't want to say improbable run to the cup, but it is rare that a team this stacked actually delivers, and this time they did. So at the very least, while this episode is here, this is the episode where we will be making drastic changes to the team thanks to the salary cap. At the very least, the members who leave will be remembered as Stanley Cup champions, as Russell Clausen, our Conn Smythe winner, Victor Goldobin and his Goldobin Knights, as Crimson Lion put it, and everyone else on this team lived up to their potential and brought Lord Stanley's Cup to Vegas. But again, unfortunately, the happy fun times of seeing this team together and succeeding, that is over for some members of this team. And I'm not quite sure exactly what changes are going to be made and when they're going to be made, whether or not some people are traded at the draft, whether or not some people are traded during the preseason as we finalize the roster. We'll, of course, have the captaincy vote to end this episode. There's a lot to get to. I do want to get to a couple of your comments, though. First of all, Nathan, I'm the funniest YouTuber you know. You have a very low bar. You have a very low bar. That might be the first time I've ever been called funny. And Tugi, can you have a lesson, a lesson session? You could have phrased that better for Trig. No, I can't. You're on your own, pal. Just like the rest of us either are or were. Deal with it. I believe in you, though, so good luck. That said, the rest of the comments referred to what you would have expected them to refer to. Who should stay, who should go. And when it comes to this team, like I said, we knew this was going to be a problem for quite a while now. Thankfully, though, the end result was what we wanted. Of course, we ended up signing Russell Clausen to that $13.8 million deal. We ended up re-signing guys like Marvin Mason. Elijah Lackey also got a new contract, but not everyone's signed. Goldobin's not signed, Gertson's not signed, and we don't have enough money as it stands right now to pull that off. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes down, because at the beginning of the season, an obvious vote for someone like Cody Glass was, oh yeah, get rid of him. And then he has a phenomenal season. So certain guys have certainly made it more difficult to decide who stays and who goes due to their performance throughout the year. But the first thing that we need to do is sim towards the draft. That is the first step. We really, I don't want to say we don't have the money to re-sign anybody for cheap at this point, but we kind of don't, as the Winnipeg Jets end up with the number one pick. Of course, we have no picks in the top 15 as expected. But like I said, the big thing here is that we don't exactly have a ton of money to pull this off. We should be able to, but we don't have a ton. So we have $7 million in extension money remaining, and as it is, Goldobin's asking for 8.8. So we're going to want to bring him back, obviously, after leading our team in points, not in points per game. That, of course, was Russell Clausen. Well, we need to make moves immediately, and that's what I was saying, is that as far as who goes immediately to kick off this episode, I'm not entirely sure. We will find out very, very shortly. Let's go ahead and sim to the draft. We'll go through retirement and see who has left as Brad Marchand retires. James Neal retires. We, of course, signed him for depth. So say goodbye to one James Neal. James, I'll make sure your name's on the cup. Why not? Played just under 1,200 career games among defensemen, Johnny Boychuk, Alec Martinez, and among goaltenders, Henrik Lundqvist, Pekka Rinne, Ryan Miller. That is a hell of a class right there. We didn't lose anybody outside of Neal, though, did we? We did not. So James Neal calls it a day. And we also lost a scout, Theodore Ginza, our scout in Switzerland. So we'll have to pay attention to that. For now, I will actually set up the trade block. Or not. I'm at least going to take those players off the list. You can't set up the trade block the way you used to be able to last year. At least I haven't been able to, with saying, hey, offer me anybody or any pick, whatever. Teams just won't send you any offers whatsoever. So it kind of handcuffs you. Let's get into this. Shall we? Again, it was at the draft where all of this really started, where we get rid of, and we talked about it before, we get rid of William Karlsson, Artemi Panarin, Roman Josi, and then we use it, we have all those draft picks in a legitimate sense, and then we went a little bit crazy to trade up like we did, which, regardless, we were going to have some solid draft picks. Where we were going to have the team that we have right now, or had for the Cup run, no, but, we had the ability to do so. I think the point is we managed to get some pretty good returns on some of those trades. And then, of course, there was the reacquisition of Josi that a lot of people didn't like. We don't have to talk about that. It's in the past, damn it. Let's move forward. Let's look forward. So, as far as the salary cap is concerned, the big question here is what happens in terms of goaltending with Andrei Vasilevskiy, as somebody has to go. If anything, 2 people might have to go. I don't know what that situation is going to look like. There is a chance Vasilevskiy could be leaving the team sooner rather than later. And in terms of the cap amongst defensemen, I think the obvious names to potentially go, Theodore is absolutely up there. And then, of course, Provorov, our big free agent signing, who didn't do a whole hell of a lot in the playoffs for us outside of just being strong defensively. In terms of point production, where we expected him to deliver, he wasn't quite at that level. And unfortunately, some of those other contracts, they don't show up as having kicked in yet. So, there you go. The big money. The big money. Oh, my God. I don't know. That's the problem. I don't know. I think, first and foremost, Shea Theodore is going to be on the way out. With him gone, Gertson, Norton, Rositas, Brannstrom, Bobrovsky, again, Hatainen and Kane might be ready. Regardless of who stays and who goes amongst the likes of Hatainen and Kane, Bobrovsky, who all played in the AHL last year, Theodore is just not going to have a spot. He's 29 years old, makes $5 million. Well, we need to find a landing spot for him. We're not going to have enough to trade up using just Theodore alone. Thankfully, we do have a first-round pick and quite a few seconds, so as it stands, this is going to be a hell of a draft for us anyway. Of course, I'd love to trade him to an Eastern Conference team. Jared Spurgeon, available there for Boston. They have the 6th pick. Is there a team in the East, preferably that's interested in him, and that is willing to make moves, as the Jets are about to make their selection, which is fine. We were never going to be able to trade up to that number 1 pick. Montreal, not going to work cap-wise. New Jersey, not going to work cap-wise. The Rangers might work. Not willing to trade that pick, but we might still be able to pull off that deal. Outside chance of it. Philly could work too. They don't want to get rid of their first. Hell, they don't have their first. So that's not a very big help. Toronto, what do we have? 2 first-round picks for the Leafs, 11th and 12th. Not bad, but not the ideal landing spot. So let's talk to the New York Rangers, and we'll see if they're interested in moving that 9th pick. I doubt that goes through. Indeed, it didn't. So we're going to have to give up a little bit more to make that happen. Thankfully, though, we do have the picks to pull it off. How's our 3rd-round pick sound alongside Theodore? Just to see how close we are. We're not going to be that close, and I can already tell it's going to be way too far off. So let's go talk to the Leafs and see if they're interested in moving the Islanders pick. I'd be willing to do that straight up. And odds are we'll get someone of an equal potential to Theodore. I might safety net it just in case, because you never know. I don't want to totally shoot myself in the foot. That doesn't go through. What about just the 5th? And what about straight up? Yeah, see, again, that is the issue. If teams do not want to trade the pick, we are kind of screwed. So we need to explore some outside options here. Maybe a team that's not interested in Shea Theodore, but are still willing to move the pick or can afford him. And nobody... See, this is why I don't feel too bad about the moves that we made, because we got so lucky. Nobody wants to trade a first-round pick, but for whatever reason, in the years that we got 1, 2, and 3, or in the year that we got 1, 2, and 3, teams were willing to trade picks. That's what provided us the opening, as opposed to this, where I can't find a dance partner for these trades. So I don't regret it necessarily. Yet nobody wants to make moves for high-end picks. Nobody. Philadelphia, you don't have your pick. That's right. And I'm certainly not going to trade Theodore for seconds. Is Pittsburgh wanting to deal? They are not. This is the other side to it, and why this episode could take a while is that, of course, there's the outside chance that teams don't want to do anything. Washington. Okay, or Vancouver. Damn it. How about Washington? All right, Washington's willing to make moves. And I'm willing to deal. The question is, do you have someone on a 1-year deal, an expiring deal, that I could take back for dirt cheap to pull this off? So someone with really low value like TJ Oshie. I'll take Oshie back in this deal. That works out the cap. We ditch Oshie and get something back in return for Theodore. So we'll take... I mean, really, in terms of value, like I have to stack this because, again, Theodore has good value. I got to be honest. I'm going to try 2 firsts and 2 seconds, which seems ridiculous. It might work. If they're willing to do it, then so be it. They are not. But if I add a little bit, it might not be that far off. So for goalies, Sauve is never going to make it, at least for us, right? Like, we have too many strong defensive or goaltending prospects. I'm willing to trade Theodore and a decent goaltending prospect for 2 firsts and 2 seconds. Are the Caps willing to do it? Yes, they are. So, is that cheap? I don't know. They did want the player, and they wanted to trade the picks. So, that's a debatable point. But Shea Theodore ends up being dealt to the Washington Capitals. Now, as far as anybody else is concerned, I mean, again, if we look at our goalie prospects here, I mean, Vasilevsky would ideally be kept, but the money situation is what it is. In terms of AHL goaltending prospects, I can't imagine Gervais, Chouinard, or Dirksen will still be AHL level next year. So more than likely, it'll be Coburn as the starter, and we'll get somebody else. Reitz just isn't a high enough overall to sign yet. Trading Rafael Reitz is probably for the best. Is it going to be cheap? Yeah, because we can kind of see already that he's not going to develop, right? So that's the type of trade, in my opinion, that's cheap. I gave up a decent goaltending prospect to help push a trade through for 2 firsts and 2 seconds, but at least Washington wanted to do that. They're looking to win the cup. They lost in the conference final to Tampa. We nearly got the Washington rematch, which would have been amazing. Maybe we would have lost, though. But trading someone like Reitz, where I know he's not going to develop, barring a miracle, that's the type of cheap trade to me. So if I'm allowed to trade Reitz, I want to leave that up to you. Am I allowed to trade him? And am I allowed to trade him for that max value? I mean, because with that value, let's be honest, that's more so trade for a first-round pick. Like, that's what Reitz would allow us to do, is trade for a pick, a first-round pick, pretty easily. Or even a top prospect. I don't know if I necessarily want to do that when I know he's probably not going to develop. As it is, he's 21, so I think after this season we'd have to sign him. It's an interesting topic of discussion that we can get back to later on. I don't think I'm going to trade him now, but we could very well do so later on. Maybe even at the start of next episode if you guys decide that's cool, and then we deal him for a pick. But I don't know. We'll see. I mean, maybe he takes a big step up in development and proves to be worthy of a backup goaltending spot. But for now, with our goalies, the only guy I'm keeping an eye on and potentially getting rid of is Vasilevsky. Havla doesn't have any trade value. I'm pretty sure he's on an expiring deal. We might just be letting him go. Defensively, the big question there is Provorov. Norton's fine. Bronstrom's fine, but might have to go. And then Eklund. Gertzen's going to want a big deal, though, which we were well aware of. Hatainen's going to want a new deal. That's a tough one. And then as far as wingers are concerned, Clausen's big deal's coming up. Lackey's big deal's coming up. Then you have Tate Dwyer on 9.7. Someone who was demoted down to the 4th line, but then in the playoffs stepped up in a major way. I mean, he had 77 points in the regular season, got dropped, and then ended up finishing the postseason with 14 points in 23 games. The former 3rd-round pick, who was turned into such an amazing player. And then you have someone like Roach, who I feel like is one of the more obvious guys to get rid of. And we've talked about it before. As far as the top 6 is concerned, we can keep everybody happy, but in terms of proper development and getting the most out of guys, I mean, right there, that's a top 9. That is a top 9, and it's just not going to work. Especially, too, because we need Fotinos on that second line, or Fotinos, perhaps, to develop. So guys like Suzuki and Roach are still probably gone. Oh, boy. And then somebody out of that top 6, right here from Dwyer and up, ideally goes for Fotinos to get into the lineup. Oh, it's tough. It's tough. I think the next obvious guy to go, though, it's probably Roach and Suzuki, at the very least. Nick Suzuki, who was supposed to be one of the faces of this series. Of course, we started this series before the Pacioretty trade. Like, episode 2 is when the Pacioretty trade went down, and Suzuki went to Montreal, which put us into an interesting spot. He had a really good season and proved that he could deliver to a top 6 extent, which, in a way, almost makes it worth keeping him. He had 14 points in this postseason, 3 years left on a very good deal. He's capable of putting up points as a third liner. And for that reason, actually, we might be able to keep him happy if he's actually a third-line role. So is Roach. Interesting. So it's not a matter of not being able to keep them happy and getting the most out of them. It's more a matter of the cap. The problem is I need to play it safe because I can't afford to potentially let someone walk as an RFA because we'd miss out on getting a good price for them. But then you factor in Fedorov, Bembridge, Rizzi, Verbata, guys who are going to be stepping up, playing those third-line minutes. I mean, even if the fourth line consists of the likes of Robertson and Dylan Dubé again, not to mention whoever we draft here, Suzuki and Roach have to go. And Gregory Roach is another one of those guys, second-round pick, not all that long ago for the 24-year-old, capable of 40 and 50 points, nearly a 60-point season had he not been injured, still has produced in the playoffs. But, yeah, just money-wise, they gotta go, because they're going to be freeing up way too much money there. So I'm not sure where they're going. Again, preferably to an Eastern Conference team. And to be honest, Washington was like the one team that was willing to deal. Let me double check the Leafs, who again didn't want to move. I need to find a team in the East, like Tampa, who we beat, that's willing to make a deal. Do they have a player who's making $6 million or more on an expiring deal who doesn't have very good trade value? The answer there appears to be Jake Muzzin. So if we can get Muzzin and we can get Tyler, I can't believe Tyler Pitlick was making that much money. If we can get Muzzin and Pitlick, can we make up the value with draft picks? Of course, this is risky, dealing with the enemy that we just beat and might potentially run into again, but it needs to be done. 2 firsts and a second for Suzuki and Roach, and again, we'll be cutting Pitlick and Muzzin. I'm good with that. We might technically be missing out. And in fairness, actually, the Muzzin deal could go through, so we're going to try to do the same damn deal that we just did with Washington. Is that going to go through? Not quite. Okay. Let me double check here. What if we add a nice shiny Vegas third to the deal? What do you say now? Still rejected. Okay, cool. So that's fine. We'll take out the second round pick next year. I'm just going to add a 5th. Safety net things. See how it looks. Still rejected. Take out the 5th entirely. Still rejected. Okay. I'm all right with that. So let's go 2 firsts and a third along with Muzzin. Still rejected. Quite far off. Wow, am I really overestimating the value of Suzuki and Roach combined? Apparently. I'd rather take the first round pick this year. Let me go second. Now, this is obviously going to be too much, but we're testing the waters, right? That's the point. We're trying to see how close we can get. Hold on. They would have said something about accepting that. Let me take out the third and add a 4th. What did they mention about accepting that? They don't want to take Gregory Roach's contract. Interesting. What if we just do a first and a second? Wow, they don't want Gregory Roach. I didn't see that coming. Huh. Is there a team that's interested in Roach Washington, preferably an Eastern Conference team. Boston. They're not really looking to trade anything that's all that helpful. Is there another Eastern team that has interest in Roach? Columbus, even though you're maxed out on contracts, that's not going to work either. We should still be able to deal him. Montreal might work, but they're in cap hell right now. But that could be the opening that we need. So let's see who the Habs have for us here. Max Pacioretty, go figure, although not on a one-year deal. Is there anyone else of really low value? It's not looking like it. Boston's on the clock. Let's go for Vedemo. Vedemo is probably not that low enough. What about him and Rupe Hintz combined? They'd still be $2 million over. Okay, so, I mean, right now we're just desperate to get rid of this contract if teams don't view it as a contract worth taking. So let's go with 42-year-old Ilya Kovalchuk. We'll also add Vedemo and Hintz, all three of whom we'll ditch. Montreal would still be over. Oh my god, they must have pre-contract signings. They must. That's the only thing that makes sense. So what if we take on, Mete, that might just be due to the morale system, if anything. What if we take on Gustav? Jesus. So we'd have to take on Kovalchuk, Vedemo, Hintz, and Nyquist, all of whom we ditch. They take Gregory Roach. So really, we wouldn't even be helping them out that much. I mean, they're going to be getting rid of all those players anyway, I'd imagine. And we get back your first. How close are we? Probably not. Yeah. We're not going to get much back for Gregory Roach at this point, but I didn't assume that contract would be viewed so negatively. So I'm just going to do what I got to do to get rid of it. Some people are probably rejoicing for the fact that we're not going to get that much back for him. As it is, we've already done a decent bit of business with Tampa and Washington. Third round pick for Roach? Still no. Huh. I don't necessarily need to trade him to Montreal. Yeah, this isn't worth it for me now at this point. Sorry, Montreal. Just not going to happen. Is there another team that wants him? Just because then if they reject it in terms of, oh, we don't view it as being worth it, then this game's ridiculous. Let's go back and talk to the Bruins. And let's see, a third round pick, where are we in terms of value? Okay, so they're going to have a little bit more value on that third. We'll try to take your third next year. And I'm just going to stock up on these mid-round picks. I'm willing to do that because we get rid of them and at least get more back than we would for Montreal. Value's too far off. Let's take off the fourth next year. I'll take it. So what was that? 2/3, a fourth, and a fifth for Gregory Roach. Not much back for a former second-round pick, but apparently the contract we signed him to was a tad bit extensive in the first place. So Gregory Roach is also gone. And from here, it gets interesting. So Klassen, Mason, Goldobin, Glass, Lackey, Dwyer. Again, one of those six ideally would be on the way out, and we wouldn't want to play one on the third line or lower. Originally, the easy decision was Cody Glass, but with the way he stepped up last year with a 70-assist season, I don't know if that's necessarily the right play. It was easy. Klassen, Mason, Goldobin, Lackey, Dwyer, Fotinos. Quick and easy. And it hasn't necessarily worked out that way. Lord knows how much Fedorov's going to want. Boston's still on the clock. Nick Suzuki still has to be traded. Is there an Eastern team that has interest? Columbus. We are going to need to take back somebody. And as it is, with teams not exactly wanting to trade picks, I can't imagine anyone's going to be wanting to trade prospects either. So we are kind of limited right now in what we can look to get back. Teams are, we have high value players to negotiate with, but teams are being just a little bit stingy. Columbus here, we'll be lucky if we can get a second round pick for Nick Suzuki, which obviously is selling low on him, but the value of freeing up that cap space is the real important thing. So we'll take back Payer. You get, we get a second, 2/4, and a fifth. I'll take it. So we did have to sell Suzuki low, but I am okay with it, all things considered. And I think for now, we're okay. So we own half of the second round, because why the hell not? And like I said, I mean, we could take a look around at other teams in terms of like what high-value players they have. In terms of goalies, we don't necessarily need a high-value goalie to replace anybody that we have. But, you know, if we look here, I mean, even to get like a Wakabayashi from Columbus, they don't want to trade him, so he might as well have a full value bar. Like, trying to get Wakabayashi would take Cody Glass and, like, the franchise goalie. Or quite a few draft picks. Would it be worth it for me to trade Cody Glass and a ton of seconds for Wakabayashi? No. And whether or not any teams have, like, high-end prospects they're willing to deal, the answer is probably no. So, and yes, I saw Draisaitl for some reason was listed above McDavid value-wise. So there's really nothing else we can do aside from trade for draft picks. So there's no guarantees we're going to hit on those draft picks either. I mean, time will tell as the Ducks are on the clock still. Let's see. Are we good for the moment? I think we might be. I think we might be okay. Hopefully. And then the big decision of who to get rid of still looms overhead. But I think for now, we should have the money. We could bring back Oldobin. One player, maybe two, will have to go to free agency as an RFA if I'm judging this the wrong way. But we'll see how it goes. Our first pick in this draft comes 29th. I mean, it's 29th and 31st, right? To start the first round picks or just the picks in general for us. So, and Wakabayashi was actually just drafted. Pudinov's Jets get a big-time sniper. The next Solani, perhaps. Let's start making these picks, shall we? I'm not going to half-ass it, but we will try to make it through in a decent amount of time. B's and C's for Derek Hannon. B's and C's for Cyrus Westcott. Again, there is the medium 9. Now, there have been some medium 9 players that I've missed out on that have had some pretty good grades, like good old Jesus Jeffrey here with that A- shooting. But obviously, we want to aim for a higher ceiling than what that potential is. It's not to say that the medium 9 can't be like an 80 overall. Andre Heda here is going to be pretty good, but, you know, his ceiling is a lot lower. Whereas with any of these guys, Nieminen, Chung, we might get a little bit lucky. Let's mark Ledeen, Bootland, Sweeney. Pretty much just going to pin everybody here that we need to. And then we'll sort it from there because we are going to have to make the next 2 picks here. 2 out of 3 picks. And then heading into the second round, I want a decent amount of players pinned as well. So it's pretty much all we need to do. Actually, you know, I don't even have to do that. We can just go back to CS rank and see who we have. So Hannon, B's and C's. Westcott, B's and C's. Nieminen, B's and C's. C's and B's. Is there anybody else who's better than that? Ledeen, a couple of B's. Terrible skating, though. But still, couple of B's for the right wing. It's fairly interesting. Sweeney, B's and C's. Couple of B's for Caden McElroy. Not a bad option, but probably a little bit too early to take him, perhaps. Orlando Staples, Barry Coburn, also looking pretty good. So McElroy and Coburn right now are probably my 2 favorites. Skylar Cracknell, not too bad. Brent Mink, not too bad. Actually, he wasn't even one that we needed to look at. Baalsma and Julkinen. I gotta be honest, there's not one like, oh my god, we need to draft this guy right now kind of player. It's just you can tell that there are going to be some decent players here. Billy Abney, maybe a Rumble teammate. There are going to be some decent players here, but in terms of like a true game changer, not so much. So in terms of a high potential, a medium top 6 grinder potentially in Westcott. He is a grinder, so We have Hannon, who's a low elite, maybe still a medium elite, but he's a defensive D-man, so that's a tough one to judge. We have Nieminen, closing in on that medium elite. Max Pacioretty comparison. How big is he? 6'2"? Pacioretty's much bigger than that. Why would that be a Pacioretty comparison? Vic Chung, a Hartnell comparison. Right. And then from there it drops off a little bit. So, the problem is Nieminen and Chung are both looking pretty damn good. Hannon, I'm not sure, but Hannon is the highest rated defenseman. I'm probably going to go with Hannon and Chung. And I think that we're going to take Derek Hannon with this next pick. 25 points as a defensive D-man. No comparison. We'll see what he is. He is a 65 low elite. Not bad considering what we've seen some low elite defensemen turn into. So, Derek Hannon, welcome aboard. The Lightning end up taking Jeffrey, who was a 62, and now we'll take that sniper, Nieminen. Nieminen, however the hell you want to pronounce it. And we'll see what we have with him once we scroll all the way back through. You gotta love it. It is a 61. Ooh. Whoo, that dropped. I know it wasn't a guaranteed medium elite or even close, but normally I get a little bit lucky to have it not drop that far. Medium 9. Whew. That is rough. So case in point, there's still not a guarantee. There's still not a guarantee. The Flames don't get anybody that much better. And for all we know, it's not that strong of a draft anyway. Chung is still there, who I'm not sure if I'm sold on. We have Marcus Ledeen, again, B's and C's, which was pretty much the story for everyone. Bootland, Sweeney, McElroy was the first one I was really interested in. So if we wanted to take someone still off of how highly they were rated, there is Vic Chung. But I don't necessarily know if I want another power forward. Just power forward's been so weird this year. So I'm going to go with my gut on this one and take one of my favorite players that we looked at, and that was Caden McElroy, who is pretty strong, probably offensive defenseman, not a two-way, with him being 5'9". So Caden McElroy, welcome aboard. Medium top forward, a 63. Not bad at all for the 18-year-old. And case in point is an offensive defenseman. So pretty good pickup there. Again, we have a lot of picks here in the second round. Hayda was a medium 9. Westcott, a medium 9. So don't really regret missing out on anybody there. Glad I don't have Fog of War on. It is kind of nice for the sake of it. Like, it's nice to know just immediately how good somebody is, but I do like Fog of War as well. I think it rolls better for a YouTube series to be able to have you guys see, like, okay, this is how good the guy is, and then you can judge me immediately as to whether or not I done goofed, as opposed to having to play them in preseason and then finding out down the road. You can at least get those comparisons. So there's a bunch of players in that group. Oh, boy. So let's see. Again, just pretty much B's and C's across the board for everybody. It would just be whether or not we want to take the risk on some potential. Orlando Staples probably up there as the best potential. Also the youngest guy we would have drafted thus far at 17 years old. Coburn had those couple of extra B's as well, much like Ledeen. But I probably would take the risk with Coburn over Ledeen at this point. You have Cracknell. There was Bilesma, Julkinen. Bilesma, decent season for the Oil Kings. Not that bad. Hämäläinen, we also pinned earlier. It's a little bit far down. And then there was Billy Abney as a defensive D-man, who could be pretty decent. Low elite gem. Low elite gem. There's also another gem there coming up. So I think for now, we're going to stick towards the top. I'm going to go for the 17-year-old Orlando Staples. Even if he's bad, he has plenty of time to develop. So for the Medicine Hat Tigers, Orlando Staples is a medium top 6, 63 overall. Again, not too shabby for a 17-year-old player. He's going to have a lot of time to develop. Good stuff overall. We got a lot more picks to go here. We actually have another one coming up. Chung ended up being a medium 9 as well. This is going to be a long episode because I have to get to the preseason, so we'll see how it goes. Coburn might be the next interesting one to pick. He might very well be. Then there was Cracknell amongst defensemen. Bilesma and Julkinen. Again, I do like the point totals. I do like that Zetterberg comparison for Julkinen as well. Hämäläinen and Abney. In terms of these potentials, I'm probably most sold on... I wish it could be Coburn, but it's just not accurate. There's the low elite and Stan Sweeney. There isn't anybody that I'm totally impressed by here, though, admittedly. I mean, there is Abney. I can get him later, though. But between Hämäläinen, I mean, there's a decent chance of them being, good, but nothing great. Nothing great from what I can tell. So when is our next pick after this? Like I said, I know we have quite a few picks here in the second round. You know what? It actually might not. I'm going to take Abney here. There's a decent chance we wouldn't end up with him. He's the one that I'm most confident in. we are going to take Abney just to make sure that we get him. So the low elite gem, Billy Abney, playing over in Germany. The Hungarian is low elite, 63 overall. Not bad. By the time we get our next pick, 24th of the round, anybody great? So, yeah, Jokinen wasn't that great. Mink wasn't that great. Biles was not that good. This is a pretty bad draft. Bootlin was okay. Sweeney was okay. But not any better. Like, Ladine was okay as well. It's a minefield right now. It is a minefield right now. This could be a fairly bad draft to have quite a few high picks in. Now, we have the low 4 and the low 6, but again, I'm going to aim for a higher ceiling. Connor Pateni, good grit as well. He might actually end up being like a grinder with that size. A low 4 gem in Philip Marshall. I don't like that as much. Medium elite Vyacheslav Bykov. Oof, going to take a long time to develop, but at the very least he's 17 years old, so he'll have time to do so. Pat Westgarth is okay, and Tristan Klubertans is also okay. We don't know for sure. I doubt Klubertans is an enforcer, but that would be very interesting. Solomon Kern as well, looking pretty decent, and Elijah Peterson as well, also looking fairly good. High bottom 6, Donald Marshall, and then Dwayne Glencross, also worth pinning here. And a medium elite, Carl McIver. Couple of guys with some potential high shooting categories. No guarantees, though. Trevor Simon as well. I don't think we have to scroll down that much further. So in terms of who I'm won over by here, I mean, it's a little bit of an off-the-board pick. It's either I go for Hämäläinen, who isn't that bad, but I don't know if he'll be great. I'm willing to take the risk that he won't be. I'm going to go with Bykov here. A little bit off the board, but we're going to take the project in Vyacheslav Bykov, or Bykov, perhaps. He is a 51, so thankfully he's 17, and we'll have time to develop. We knew that was going to be a low overall. We'll see if that works out. Was there anybody that we missed out on? Hämäläinen Again, we might as well be playing Minesweeper right now. This is a bad draft, but there is potential to be found. Next up, Westgarth or Klubertans? Probably Westgarth. And how was Kern looking? He was the first guy with that A- shooting. If we could trust that report, that would be great. So amongst these defensemen, both 18 years old, I'm going to trust Pat Westgarth of the Mississauga Steelheads over Klubertans, and swing and a miss. Swing and a miss. Tampa takes Quinville, who was a low 4, but a big swing and a miss there on Westgarth. Is there anybody else who's more of a guarantee? Solomon Kern right now is probably my favorite to take next, even over Elijah Peterson. Peterson did pretty well for the Erie Otters, but we're going to aim for higher with Solomon Kern. Is there anybody else? Glencross? Just in terms of grades is what I'm talking about, as far as like more of a guarantee. Carl McIver, I think, will be the next one after we go with Kern from the Regina Pats. Solomon Kern, how good are you? We'll find out in about 6 minutes by the time I scroll through the end of this. Medium top 9, 61. We are struggling here. We are struggling. A couple of elites in the midst, but clearly not the strongest drafts. And rather than just, delaying it and being like, oh, I'm going to trade for everything next year. Nah, fuck it. We're going for it. We are going for it. I am going to avoid Philip Marshall. And I think outright we are going to go. Peterson is tempting more than Klubertans. We're going to go for McIver. 5'9", 19 years old, Carl McIver. We need that shooting category to be as good as potentially advertised. It's not a guarantee. Medium 9 again. Medium 9 again. We do get a trade offer that I am going to decline. The shoot for the stars approach sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Tate Dwyer proves it works. These guys are proving that it's not a foolproof method, but it's worth it to go for it still. Glencross is there. Peterson might be next. Simon I'm going to avoid. Simon might not be bad. Is there anybody better? High 4, Brendan Savage. I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. You're 20 years old, too. Less time to develop. Vaclav Spacek. Not bad. I'd want him to be a little bit better, though, for being a low 6. Like, he's just, that ceiling is shorter. Obergauer. B's and C's for an 18-year-old. Again, though, a low 6. And then Pete Lowe. Also not that bad. Medium elite, Terrence Nickel. He's 18. He's going to need that time to develop, but he could be worth it. Another low 6 in Hummel. Now, again, potentials can jump, so it's not totally a bad idea to take low 6s, but still. Simon Cote is just kind of average. Morgan Mendoza, also kind of average. Mendoza's 19. I'd rather draft Cote. More time to develop. We're getting pretty far down the board. We're getting into like 3rd, 4th round territory. Clearly not the strongest draft. Robert Gilson. Whew, man, this might be the right draft to just trade away. I gotta be honest. I mean, I got back into the 107s. So the highest rated guy here is Klubertons. But Nickel is probably the guy that I want to pick up the most. But I think we'll go for Elijah. Elijah Peterson of the Erie Otters, and we'll see what's up there. Low 6, 62. Rough. And our next pick isn't until the end of the 3rd round, but you see who other teams are drafting. It's not looking too good. Nickel is still there, thankfully. So Terrence Nickel is the pick. And yet again, I hate drafting at the end of the round. Nickel is a 50. At 18, was it? Okay, so that's mainly what we're getting in this draft right now. Big-time projects who may or may not make it. Time will tell. From here, though, I'm going to start sorting by potential a little bit earlier than I normally do. There is a medium elite Andrew Whitaker as a goalie, who's not looking that bad for a 19-year-old. Edwin Jones is okay. I mean, we can't trust, obviously, that he's actually medium elite. Davis Valette, 20 years old. I'd need to see great grades there. Do we have anybody with, like, crazy good grades? And I'm going to guess that the answer is no, because that's just how this draft has been. Please, I am begging you. Hello, how good are you? Low 6. I might start to make moves here. I want to do at least risk it with the high-level picks, but even the low-level picks aren't looking that great, man. They're really not. Braden Saad, huh? Yeah, I think what we're probably going to do... Let's see, when was Whitaker projected? I think I'm going to look to trade away picks here. I'll probably keep my lowest 4th-round pick and take that player, but... Aside from that, we have a lot more draft picks here, and I'm not wanting to make them because they're looking quite rough. So is there a team that's open to trading picks next year? The Anaheim Ducks. 1st-round pick's probably too damn high, and it is, but that is okay. How about a nice, shiny 2nd-round pick next year? 2 fourths and 3 fifths for a 2nd? Good stuff. I'll take that. And we'll get rid of the 6th and the 7th this year because there were really no players that I wanted to take a flyer on. And I'll try to get a 4th-round pick next year from Arizona. Rejected. Hopefully the 5th-round pick works. I mean, overall, like I said, I wanted to risk it with those high picks rather than just reinvesting or dealing them for high picks next year. Didn't exactly work out, as Arizona was ridiculous, but congratulations, there you go. Let's go ahead and sim to the end of the 4th round. Make that final selection, and move on to the re-sign phase. This is going to be a marathon episode, as you already know. Andrew Whitaker is the pick, and he is a medium elite, but we just don't know how good of an overall at 19 years old. A 50. So, again, he was actually 18, in fairness. I thought he was 19, so he'll have an outside chance, but not a tremendous draft. That is the type of draft where it's like, man, you better trade up because otherwise you get to rely on a bunch of players who might not ever make it. But the big story there, as a couple of our scouts have contracts expire, the big story there would absolutely be the trades of Suzuki, of Shea Theodore, of Gregory Roach, and having to move on from key players of that last team. I mean, Theodore, one of our highest rated defensemen, Roach and Suzuki both had really good seasons on that third line. They are gone now, though. We are still having the threat of a major player leaving the team looming over our heads as well. Everything is not yet set in stone. Let's see here. So amongst goaltenders, Coburn needs to be signed. So again, Hovland will be on his way out. Former 5th round pick in 2019. Not too bad, but we just don't have space for him right now. So he's on the way out. We're going to be signing Coburn, who was a 5th round pick in 2023. Amongst defensemen, we have to take a look there. Gertson's contract is up. We have $18 million in space. Gertson, Hatainen, Kane, Kolzig. Quite a few defensemen need to be signed. Payer, of course, will be picked up, I believe, from the Bruins. Will be cut. DiPietro, a 7th round pick. He was taken in the 7th round, 208 overall in 2023. He'll be dropped for obvious reasons. Right wings, we have Rizzi. TJ Oshie, of course, will be released. We just picked, one of the numerous guys that we picked up. Holt will end up being signed, just not yet. Datsuk and Nilstorp. And then among centers, Goldobin. This is going to be expensive. But we're going to try to get him locked up long-term right now. And to be honest, being able to knock that down to 10-5, that's the lowest he'd possibly accept. That would be a steal for us long-term. We'll see if he's willing to do that. And then we'll move on to talking to our defensemen. So like I said, there might be guys like Hatainen that end up going to free agency as RFAs. Coburn accepts, Goldobin rejects. So the big thing here, certainly the contract negotiations with Goldobin. Even then, $11 million over 8 years is a pretty damn good option. But I'm still going to try to go about 10.75. Try to save some money where I can. It's worth negotiating with him. We have time. Will he accept that? Mats Franzen's back as a scout. Chapman and Hines, they're all back. Goldobin still rejected. Okay, we might not be able to go the full 8 years. I'm surprised he doesn't want the full 8-year deal. But we will we'll factor that in. That's the big negative for him right now, is that we're offering him more years than what he wants. So that's the thing. 6 years, we're talking 9.6, actually a little bit under. I'm going to offer him 9.6 over 6 years, which is just a stupid level of a steal if he's willing to accept it. He's not. Not wanting to play ball, and we're running out of time in terms of negotiations. We're going to go 10-6 here and hope that that's enough. But I also have to start negotiations with some of our other players. The big one is Gertson, who only wants 4. Not bad. He's the type of player where I'm not sure how much better he's going to get. He is pretty damn solid. Can't skate worth a damn, but has a good shot. Very defensive, good defense, which is why it was shocking he put up the points that he did. So, I mean, if we were to try to give him the 8-year deal, which isn't going to happen, I'm just saying if we were to try, that'd be $5.5 million. He wants 4 years, and I'm willing to offer him what he wants because of what we've seen happen with Goldobin, as far as players not wanting more years than what they're asking for. So 4.1 isn't terrible, but there's a chance Gertson might not last. Fedorov is looking for at least 2.7. Rizzi is looking for $1 million. Actually, we could be okay. Kirill Datsuk wants 1. We might be able to pull this off here. We might be able to pull this off as long as Goldobin and Gertson sign for relatively cheap, which is what it's looking like it's going to be. So let's see what happens there with those two. Hopefully we can resolve this issue fairly quickly. Gertzen rejects, Goldobin rejects, and now we're in a little bit of trouble because we only have 2 days left, and the 85% trick is not working, which sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It works more frequently in terms of mid-season resignings, but we didn't have the money to do that then because we were going for a cup. All right, Goldobin. I mean, even then, what you're asking for isn't that bad. Did we do 11 by 6 last time? I'm going to offer him exactly what he wants. And we'll probably do the same with Gertzen, roughly. Let's go 4-5 for him. But now it's at the point where I have to start offering these other guys some money. And hopefully, with them being lower on the totem pole, they're willing to take discounts. Fedorov. We'll try to get that down to 2.3 over 3 years. Did that go through? It said he was happy about being offered a deal, but I don't know what just happened there. Okay, let's try that again. There you go, maybe? Why is it not updating that I sent him an offer? You know what? I can't be bothered. Whatever. Rizzy. I'm just going to try to drop that to $1 million even. Slight discount. Kirill Datsuk. Let's see if I can drop that at all. It's a little bit more than what I was hoping for. Not that you don't deserve it after the postseason you had. We're going to go 1.3. Every cent counts. Dylan Dubé is an interesting one. You're probably not going to be signed for that, buddy. I don't think we can afford to sign Dylan Dubé, to be honest. Hatainen is looking for 1.9, which is a little bit rough considering you've never played an NHL game. We'll drop that down to 1.65. It's a race to the finish here. Kane, also looking for a bit of money. Again, you can see where some players are just going to have to go to free agency, and we're going to have to work it from there. Kolzig, still probably worth re-signing. Whoo, boy. Okay. I don't want to lose you for nothing, but goddamn, if you don't accept the 85, to be honest, he might be the type that we re-sign and immediately deal. Nilstorp, thankfully, isn't looking for anything. Lindbergh, as well. Try to bring you back for dirt cheap. McChesney, try to bring you back for dirt cheap. Kostitsyn, probably not worth keeping. Probably not at 24. Nah, so Kostitsyn is going to be on the way out. The former third-round pick of the Wild, who I don't even recall picking up. Was he a part of a trade? I don't remember, to be honest. Novikov, though, being low elite, I'll hold on to him for a season. Hopefully he's willing to do that. Holt needs to be signed to his ELC, and we're good for the moment. We got one more day after this to try and pull this off. We need to see a lot of accept here. So, Hatainen signs, Rizzy, Kolzig, Kane rejects, Nilstorp accepts, Datsuk, Fedorov, Novikov, McChesney, Lindbergh, Gertzen, Goldobin, Holt, all signed. So, money-wise, it's going to be tight. Yeah, 1.43 million remaining. In terms of expiring deals, we have Dubé and Kane. Kane was looking for 1.5, was that? 1.6, okay. So, Kane, we're going to qualify. And we're going to offer him a deal. So we swung this to the point where we nearly brought every single person back. I should be able to drop that to 1.4 even, hopefully. And then Dylan Dubé, unfortunately, is going to be a casualty here. There's just no room for him. I was kind of hoping to still have him on the fourth line next year. We know he's capable of 20 points, but that's just not going to happen. So Dylan Dubé, also a casualty of the moves that we've had to make. And we'll see what happens. Of course, we will get some cap relief once we finalize who the hell we want to get rid of. As Kane rejected, so he's going to free agency. Can't help but feel as though he's not going to get offered a contract. Just can't help but feel that way, and that he'll be back, no problem. Austin Matthews, Clayton Keller, it's one hell of a free agent list. That is absolutely absurd, including one Carter Hart, who we couldn't try to sign if we wanted to. But what I can take a look at is whether or not we have any prospects that could be worth signing before we fill out the roster with players that we need to sign in general. So Kane is the top. We have Nylander and Nyquist both there. And a low 4, 21-year-old Bell. Stephen Bell, third-round pick of the Ducks. So 3 defensemen worth looking at. And then forward-wise, we have Leddy, who is 1,000% worth signing. 7th-round pick of the Rangers. Why did they not come to a deal with him? We'll throw our name into the hat on that one. And then Holmqvist and Kuiper, who really aren't worth signing because they're just going to get devastated in the AHL. Like, they are just not good enough, just to, put it quite frankly. And then there's some low 6 options that aren't bad, but we still have too many guys to sign. So back to these defensemen, where I kind of want to give Bell a chance. Stephen Bell has a great shot. I don't think I'm going to sign Nylander or Nyquist because we're going to have to play them. I don't think I'm going to sign Bell either. I think the only guy I'm going for there is Leddy, just because he's absolutely worth it. So let's hit Sim the next season, although I need to immediately stop that because I have to go hire a European scout. Leddy has signed, so that's great. Ended up getting the one guy that I really wanted. And let's take a look at the scouts. There's a phenomenal Euro scout here in Franzen, who is already ours because the button didn't go through. I thought I already hit it. Whoops, that always happens. Here we go. There is a phenomenal AHL scout in Biega. Is there a Euro scout here worth signing, please? I just need the best Euro scout. Sergei Sergeyev. Sergey, welcome to the team. Oh, we needed you. It's good to have you here. Let's start simming. We need to get confirmation that Kane's going to be back, because I'm sure he will be. And we'll figure out the roster from there. Sergey, welcome to the team. We get an offer for Kapainen, which I'm not going to take, but damn if he's worth 2 second-round picks. That could be pretty interesting, because again, the moves aren't done yet. There's no way the moves can be done yet. There is still too much to do, too much to decide on, as far as what the goaltending is going to look like. Now we shift towards, okay, what kind of player development are we going to see here? Who's going to take that step forward? We know we have some decent prospects. It's figuring out still, based off of development, who stays, who goes, and not only what kind of guidelines we have as far as what we can do in terms of trading and how cheap we want to be, which again, even I have my limits as to where it's like, that might be too cheap. And then there's also the captain vote. So let's see here. All expiring. Nope, it'd be under unsigned now, wouldn't he? Or not. RFA. There we go. Kane, you want to sign now? I'm sure you do. Oh, look at you. Now you want to sign for dirt cheap. You don't say. Please do. If I knew he was going to sign for that dirt cheap, I would have kept Dylan Dubé. But that is all right. We'll see if he's willing to come back for 1 year. He'll retain RFA status heading into next season. And there we go. He is back. So justice, I hate to tell you, but in my favor, justice has been served because I got the better of you. That's what happens. And guess what? You get to negotiate with me next time. Also, I love how he loses morale for being nervous for signing, but then he's happy that he got a new contract on the team. What the hell even is that? We don't have to talk about it. It's all good. So let's see what the hell this team is going to be looking like. First and foremost, how many contracts do we have signed? 38. So let me go take a look for sure at the players who are worth signing, because I'm sure there are going to be a couple. And at the very least, Lindgren is worth signing. Among the goaltenders, neither. Among defensemen, nobody really. And then for forwards, again, without a doubt, Lindgren's worth signing. Strong is at that point as well, but he's Canadian, whereas Lindgren's got to be Swedish. Yeah. So Jesper Lindgren will be signed. He'll be in the AHL this season. And aside from that, I'll probably just fill out the roster with some top-notch veterans, and we'll get it from there. So let's take a look, shall we, at this team, because, yeah, this could be interesting. So goaltenders, Kapainen's still an 82, Gervais Chouinard's an 83, Dirksen is an 81. Right. So we managed to keep Vasilevsky fairly easily. We didn't have to get rid of Vasilevsky or Provorov, but we do have decisions to make. In that, between Gervais Chouinard, Kapainen, and Dirksen, it's either we keep 2 out of 3, right, and get rid of Vasilevsky, or only one of them can stay. So that's the first decision we have to make as far as, do we keep Andrei Vasilevsky? So, you know, we're, oh boy, we're gonna be, man, this might be poll heavy, and don't worry, I'll remember this time. Do we keep Vasilevsky? I will remember that. And then the second poll related to goaltenders is going to be having you rank the 3 as far as who you'd like to see stay. They're all starters. So between Gervais Chouinard, who is 22, medium elite, Yanni Kapainen, who is 22, medium starter, and Dirksen, who's 22, medium elite, 81, 82, 83, vote for who you'd like to see stay. I imagine it'll be Gervais Chouinard, but still. So if Vasilevsky is voted to stay, only one of these guys will stay, and it will be the most voted upon. If Vasilevsky is decided to be traded, then the top 2 goalies on that second poll will stay. That's how we're handling that, and then we'll sign somebody else in the AHL to play with Coburn if needed. Amongst defensemen, we kind of have an issue, just a little bit, where we have too many cooks in the kitchen. Our top 4, pretty much sorted. Provorov, Rositas, Gertson, Norton. From there, though, we have to decide what the hell we want to do. So if we send down these 4 and say that, well, let's call up everyone who can be considered for one of these high-end roles, which would include Eklund as well. So out of these 7 defensemen, ideally, to get the most out of them, 2 of them would stay. You could argue Lindbergh. We could still play him effectively in the AHL, right? We could. But at depth role, we're still not going to get the most out of him. We're not going to stunt his development. But for some of these other guys, we would somewhat stunt their development. We know Eklund's a little bit better than that. He's just having a morale crisis right now. So we could rule Lindbergh out of that situation because, to be honest, that would mean we only need to sign 1 defenseman. It would be Lindbergh, McChesney, Tom, Schustrom, Christie. Actually, we'd have to sign a little bit of depth, but only 1 starter in the AHL. So amongst these 5 defensemen, only 2 of them can stay. So we'll take a look here. So again, Eklund's a low elite at 24. We'll take a look at trade values and everything in a minute. I'm pretty sure he's an 81, 82. I can double check. Justice Kane's a medium elite at 23 and 80 overall. Kolzig, 23, 80 overall, low elite. Hatainen's an 81, medium 4 at 21. Bronstrom is 26, of course, but we know what he is capable of. Of course, he's had some pretty damn good seasons, led our defenseman in points. And then there's Bobrovsky, who, let's be honest, Bobrovsky's staying. He's going nowhere. So the poll will come down to Bronstrom, Hatainen, Kolzig, Kane, and Eklund. So, you know what, give me 1 second. You get to enjoy the fine sound of typing in the background. Isn't that exciting? But then again, if you've made it this far into the video, you don't care, I would imagine. So again, there'll be another poll, because damn it, we're going poll heavy, in the description, and I'll try to leave it down in the comments as well, between Bronstrom, Hatainen, Kolzig, Kane, and Eklund. One of them gets to stay. Let's go take a look at trade values, because that's going to be a factor. But only one of them gets to stay. That decision is up to you. Of course, yes, you have to factor in the cap and everything like that. And we'll take a look at what the cap situation is going to be in a moment. But again, amongst goaltenders, Vasilevsky making $10 million over the next 3 years. We could get rid of him now and roll with Gervais Renard, Kapainen, and Dirksen. Kapainen, odds are, is going to be voted out unless you decided that you want me to kind of reinvest the trade value that Gervais Renard and Dirksen have. The other big decision here, too, amongst goaltenders, I need you to decide, trading Reitz, fair or not? That's another big decision. That'll be another poll, because why not? It's a fucking episode of polls. For goaltenders, you have 3 decisions to make. Are we trading Vasilevsky, yes or no? You have to then rank the 3 goalies, Gervais, Renard, Kapainen, and Dirksen. The top 1 is guaranteed to stay. The top 2 might be staying. And then whether or not it's fair to trade Reitz. That's the big decision. And this is his last year here. We know he's not going to develop. Is it too cheap to trade him? Knowing that he's not going to develop. Just a quick look at what the contract situation's going to be heading into next year, just so that we are, on the same page, where we right now have $5 million in extension dollars remaining. Cody Glass is going to be looking for $8 million. Fotinos' deal's coming up. Rizzi's deal, Verbata. We are going to have some contracts. Rositas as well. We're not out of this cap crunch yet. So think about that when talking about Andrei Vasilevsky. Think about that when you consider maybe keeping Eric Brannstrom, that we're going to have a similar situation next year. Maybe now is the right time to get rid of Vasi and just turn to Gervais Renard and see what he can do. And then again, amongst defensemen, again, Bobrovsky's safe. Everyone in that top 5 is safe. But between Brannstrom, Hatainen, Kolzig, Kane, and Eklund, who's a little bit further down. I'll go get you a look at Eklund's true overall. Between those 5, only one of them can stay. So whether or not it's prospects coming back, if teams are interested in making deals, whether or not it's a ton of draft picks coming back, time will tell. But let's look at our defenseman. Eklund is a legitimate, I don't know, progress report? What is he actually? Well, you can see the morale drop. Actually not telling me how good he is. I forget where to look, but point being, I think you guys get the point. Let's take a look at the forward situation now that we kind of have clarity on the goaltending and defensive situation. And let's be honest here. Someone needs to go. Someone needs to go. We can't afford to play Fotinos where he is. So, point being here, trade value-wise, they're all through the goddamn roof. You know this. They are all through the goddamn roof as far as trade value is concerned. So that's not a factor. But we have Russell Clausen. Here's the thing. You guys are going to vote for who you like the most, right? So again, it's going to be multiple choice. Vote for who you want to stay on the team. The person with the least amount of votes is going to be traded in the next episode. Guaranteed. So again, we have Russell Clausen. So I would imagine he'd be staying, but he does get paid a boatload of money. Rightfully so. That new 8-year contract, our Conn Smythe winner. There is Marvin Mason, perhaps the breakout star. He was the 8th overall pick in that draft. He was not in the top 3, and he is right there with Russell Clausen at a high elite, 21 years old, and he is on a phenomenal contract right now. I'd imagine he's staying. We just re-signed Victor Goldobin. I would imagine he is staying as well, despite the pay. Then there's Elijah Lackey, who, again, is still great, but he did slip up a bit last year. And here, actually, let me just get you a look again at stats. I want you guys to have all the information that you need as you see what Russell Clausen's done over the past 3 years. And in the playoffs, the last 2, he's an absolute beast. You have Marvin Mason, fresh off of that 102-point season, 17 points in the playoffs. You have Victor Goldobin, 79-point season, 18 in the playoffs, led the team, but again, not in point per game. That would have been Clausen. And then you have Elijah Lackey coming off a very nice 69-point season, his second in 3 years, 12 points in the playoffs for the 21-year-old. He's great. It's just we have to decide who stays and who goes. And then there's Cody Glass, who's making this decision very tough because of that 94-point season last year. He has stepped up when it was obvious he was going to be the guy to go. He's made that a tough decision. But again, UFA at the end of the year and is looking for $8 million. So factor that in to a potential decision. There is then Tate Dwyer, who, has turned into a beast. Just a beast since he joined this team. I think he's one of the faces of this series, but maybe it is his time to go. Just maybe. Getting paid a lot of money. And then there is Josh Fotinos, who still young in his career, playing on the third line, so you can't judge him too harshly. If we elect to keep him, he'd be the one who would really benefit from one of the other guys going. You look at that shooting category, I think he deserves a chance, but again, UFA, or an RFA, I should say, he's going to want to get paid big time at the end of the season. So again, that will be another poll between those 7 players. I need you guys to vote on who you want to stay. Multiple choice, vote for who you want to stay. The lowest voted upon guy will be on the way out. And then we get to the depth here. So for the moment, it doesn't really matter. Here, let's see. Who do we have? So Staios and Leddy, who we just signed, are also looking pretty good. So we have between Rizzi, Fedorov, Verbata, Bembridge is never going to be a great option for us, although, man, offensively he is gifted. It's just the defense really brings it down. And same for Robertson, who I'm not as worried about. Robertson's 26. Could just be worth keeping as a depth option. So really, I think the bottom 6 is probably sorted. In terms of Rizzi, Fedorov, Verbata, Staios, Datsuk, Leddy. Could bump up one of the other two. Maybe play the fourth liners there. Or maybe play the depth options on the fourth line. But the bottom 6 is pretty well sorted. And whether or not Bembridge and Robertson end up making the team or not, it's just that main decision of the top 6, who stays and who goes. So guys, that will do it. This marathon has come to an end. I think what we're gonna do, I said we would find a way to name a captain. Every single player who is being considered for this team, that'll be the final poll. Every single player who's being considered for this team will be voted upon, even if there's a chance of them leaving. Vote for who you'd like to see with a letter. The top 3 will get letters. First place will be the captain. Second and third will be the alternates. So I'm trying to give you guys as much control here as possible. Again, there will be a poll to decide the future of Andrei Vasilevsky. There will be a poll to decide the future of Gervais, Kapainen, and Dirksen, whether or not we're allowed to trade Reitz, or is that too cheap, between Bronnstrom, Hatainen, Kolzig, Kane, and Eklund, who stays and who goes, and then, out of the big 7, who is the one that gets voted off the island. There's the captain vote as well. I thank you for joining me on this marathon. I'm looking forward to this next season. It's going to be very interesting. We've already lost some faces, like Roach, like Suzuki, Shea Theodore, and we're not done yet before finalizing this team for our hopeful Cup defense. Thank you for watching. Support the video in any way you deem necessary. You know what that means. You know all your options on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed it. Until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you then.